Hi, this is Pastor Goodman, and I want to talk with you about church attendance. Now, if you're one of those folks that attend church, I hope that you're gaining something from it, that you're being inspired by sermons, that you're being uplifted by the songs, that you're engaging in prayer. If you're one of those that don't attend, I encourage you to attend because the Scriptures talk about how we are not to forsake the coming together of the body, referring to a time to gather for worship. But I want to talk about patterns of attendance. And I'm going to use some idealized numbers here to try to illustrate a point. Imagine that there's a church out there that has 100 people. 100 people that are good, strong believers, good supporters of the church, people that believe coming to church is important. Now, in the old days, those 100 people would be there pretty much every Sunday. You know, you can count on them being there. So we'll imagine that in one sense it's like the old days. We've got 100 people, and so if they attend each Sunday, that means that the average attendance over a 52-week period is going to be 100 people. Now, let's get to the reality of the modern world. In the modern world, people don't attend every Sunday. You know, in the olden days, the 50s and the 60s, maybe into the 70s, people felt like, got to be there every Sunday. Well, since then, it has eroded such that, if I attend 3 out of 4 Sundays, that's still good. I'm still a regular attender. Well, I would love to have a church full of 3 out of 4 Sunday attenders. But now folks are to the point where if I attend 2 Sundays a month or even 1 Sunday a month or once every 6 weeks and you talk to them, are you active in your church? A lot of those folks will say, yes, I'm active in my church, even though they may only attend twice a month or even once a month. Look at what that does, though, to your average. Go back to that ideal church of 100 people. To have everyone showing up, you average 100 on Sunday morning. Well, what if, say, 25 of that 100 started coming just 3 times a month? You've got the same 100 people, but 25 of the group now only make it there 3 out of the 4 Sundays. So you've got 13 Sundays, and here's where my math is going to sort of get it to me. You've got 13 Sundays where there's only going to be 75 people there. So 13 times 25, if I'm adding up right, is going to be 325 less people. And 325 less people divided by 52 Sundays gives you about 6 or 7 less in average attendance. So even though you might have the same number of persons involved in your church, 100, using this idealized number, if 25 of them suddenly go from attending every Sunday to attending only 3 Sundays a month, your average attendance drops from 100 per year down to about 93, 92. I didn't get those numbers worked out right ahead of time, so I'm rounding. That works well in modern math, doesn't it? So, when you look around, you say there's fewer people here. In reality, you still have the same 100 people that you had before, but some of them just don't attend as often. They're still, in their minds, involved with church. They're still caught up in the church. They're not ready to leave it, but they just realize that 3 Sundays a month is enough. Now, there are those that only attend 2 Sundays a month, and that will lower the number even more. Get your average attendance down into the 80s then, when you start factoring in those. And what happens is you might have a church with 100 people, but on Sunday mornings it begins looking like you don't have 100 anymore, because on any given Sunday a certain percentage of those folks are just not going to be there. As a pastor, that can become frustrating. I would love for you to be here every Sunday. I realize that's not a possibility for most folks, or not for most folks, for some folks. Most folks, especially some of the older generation, and I'll let you figure out if you're the older generation or not, tend to have ingrained in them that every Sunday pattern. And when I look out and see someone that's not there, I wonder what's happening. Something's going on to keep them from being here. But other generations just don't have that same sense of I've got to be there every Sunday attitude. And so you begin to see attendance decline, even though you may still have the same number of persons. I'm thinking and toying with an idea, probably sometime in the spring, and we're going to call it All Aboard Sunday. You remember the conductor would stand at the car as the train was getting ready to pull away? All aboard! I want to have an All Aboard Sunday, maybe 2, maybe an All Aboard month, where everyone is encouraged to be here, say for 4 Sundays in a row, just so we can see how big and how powerful the body of Christ can be. So I encourage you, think about that. When I announce it later on in the spring, get on board and take part in that. And if you go to another church, suggest it to your pastor there. I believe that he or she might find that an interesting challenge as well, just to see how many you can get all on board for a certain length of time. So God bless. Have a great week, and I hope to see you in church on Sunday.